Well, how is everybody on this Saturday, July 18th? I want to start off today in a different way. I'm going to start off by asking you a couple of questions. And I know it's going to seem a little strange, but just go with me on this, okay? All right, question number one. What are the ingredients in a Big Mac? What are the ingredients in a Big Mac? Do you know the ingredients in a Big Mac from McDonald's? Okay. Question number two. What are these people's names? And I'll give you their last name. It's Brady. But what are these other 9 people? How many of those names do you know? Okay, those are the 2 questions. Pretty simple. And we will come back and circle around to them, I promise. But that'll be towards the end. For now, let's just jump right back in with our study. Today we are continuing in our study of Exodus. And if I'm tracking this right, we are now up to part 15. We've just worked our way up to the end of chapter 19, which, just to summarize, the Israelites have made their way out of slavery in Egypt and have made their way across the wilderness for 3 months now. They've been traveling, camping and traveling, and they finally arrived and set up camp at Mount Sinai. And in chapter 19, Moses goes up and down Mount Sinai several times to encounter God. And God says that He wants to establish a covenant with the Israelites. So He asks the Israelites, they all agree. And then there's kind of going up and working out the ground rules about how they're going to interact with this holy God. And so there are limits and boundaries that are worked out about touching the mountain, who can touch the mountain and who can actually go on the mountain. And there's a lot of smoke and fire and lightning and a thick cloud. So it's just the perfect prelude for what is about to come next. And so let me remind us right at the end of chapter 19 what it says. It says, we read these words, chapter 19. The Lord replied, "Go down and bring Aaron up with you, but the priest and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or He will break out against them." And then finally in verse 25, we get to the end of the chapter, and it says, "So Moses went down to the people and told them." And then chapter 20 starts immediately with the 10 Commandments. I mean, it's bang, no setup, right off the top, bang, 10 Commandments. And so just to let you know my plan here, we will be spending a couple of sessions at least on the 10 Commandments. But for today, on this Saturday, I just mostly want to read through them with a couple of stops for comments. But mostly, I want us to get them on the table, so to speak, and familiarize or refamiliarize ourselves with them. And the next week, we will kind of drill down into a little bit more detail with them. And so Exodus 20, verse 1 says, "God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery." And so, okay, let me just stop here for a second and make this very important point. And listen, if you get nothing else out of what I say today, get this. Freedom from slavery comes before commands to obey. Freedom from slavery comes before commands to obey. God doesn't look down and see them in Egypt enslaved in bondage and say, "Look, you people, you keep these commandments and I'll set you free." No, God frees them by His grace. Then after they're free, God gives them commands. That's the context. It's salvation, then obedience. And don't reverse this. That's such an easy trap for us to fall into. We feel like we have to do something to earn our freedom, to earn our salvation. But this is given freely. That is grace. The 10 Commandments then are how to live free as God's people. They're how to live free as God's people. The 10 Commandments, they're a summary of the entire Old Covenant law. And trust me, as you'll see, there are a lot more laws and rules and blueprints for the tabernacle and other kinds of details that are going to follow. But it's as if in these 10 commands that God gives bullet points to the Israelites that encapsulated the heart of His covenant with them, of how they are to live as God's people. And so now let's read through them. All right. Verse 3. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven, above, or on the earth, beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your town. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land of the Lord your God, in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Okay, so there they are, the 10 Commandments, which I think just about everyone would agree are part of the hallmarks of the Christian faith. I mean, Judaism for sure, but also the Christian faith. The 10 Commandments are just foundational to us, right? No question about it. The 10 Commandments are very important. And I believe just about every Christian would agree with that. Can't think of anybody who wouldn't. But here's my question. Do we know them? Do we know the 10 Commandments, or we just know we have the 10 Commandments? A few years ago, you might remember this. There was this U.S. congressman who co-sponsored a bill that would have placed the 10 Commandments in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, and also in courthouses and judicial buildings throughout the country. And so he was being interviewed about it, about this bill that he was sponsoring on television. And when he was asked why he thought it was important, he said, well, the 10 Commandments is not a bad thing for people to understand and to respect, right? Of course. And he said, where better could you have something like that than in a judicial building or a courthouse? And then he went on to say this. He said, I think if we were totally without them, we may lose a sense of our direction. And so then the person interviewing asked him, or said to him, he says, well, there's no question of their importance. Could you tell me and our viewers, what are the 10 Commandments? What are the 10 Commandments? And he was like, what? You want me to recite them? And the interviewer said, yeah. What are the 10 Commandments? And you might remember he couldn't say. I mean, he got to sort of hemming and hawing and guessing, but in the end, he could only recite 3 of them, even though he was sponsoring the bill. And I'm sure that this was the most embarrassing moment in his life, and I don't want to pick on him, and that's why I'm not naming his name. And actually, to be fair, that really was ambushed journalism. I mean, that was just designed to embarrass this guy. But there's a point there, and that is, how much better do you think most Christians would do? Because if you ask most good church-going folks, what are the most important parts of Scriptures that we should know, that we should have memorized, that are foundational to our faith? What are those things in our faith that we should know? We might hear things like, the great commandment, like love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind. and love your neighbors as yourself. Or somebody might say the Beatitudes. Or this isn't in Scripture, but somebody might say the Apostles' Creed is high up on the list. We should know that. And the 10 Commandments, though, would be right there, right? That would be included. No question about it. People would say the 10 Commandments. Oh, I almost forgot about the 2 questions I asked you up front, okay? All right, so what are the ingredients in a Big Mac? Ready? 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Everybody knows that. Friends, that commercial came out in 1975. That was 45 years ago. And still, years later, a wide majority of Americans can recite those ingredients like they were giving out their home address. There was a research firm called Kelton Research, and they just did a study and found out that 80% of respondents knew the ingredients to the McDonald's Big Mac. But only 6 out of 10 could identify really any of the 10 Commandments. And while 43% of the respondents, including those who regularly attended worship, could recall Bobby and Peter's names, which are 2 of the least recalled names from the Brady Bunch, they were only familiar with, these church-going folks, with the 2 Commandments. The least 2 that people could remember were remember the Sabbath day, only 34%, and don't make false idols was 29%. My point is a simple one. The 10 Commandments are almost universally agreed to be one of the building blocks of our society. And if that's going to be true for us, we shouldn't just know about them, know that we have 10 Commandments. We should know them. And so today I'm going to share with you this little exercise that I learned as a child that I have carried with me to this day. I mean, I could sit in seminary class and, use this little thing to remember the 10 Commandments. And yeah, I know this may seem a little light. And I may, people may say, well, that's real childlike. That's a thing you would do with children. But okay, if it helps people remember, I'm all for it, right? Because if the commandments are as important as we say they are, we should know them. And then once we know them, know what they are, then next week we can kind of drill down and talk more about them and what they meant in their original context and how it might apply to us here. So let's get started. Let me get started with the 10 Commandments, and I'm just going to walk you through it with the hand motions, okay? And so the first one is this. Number 1, one finger up. That means that God comes first. You shall have no other gods before me. That's the first commandment. One finger. Okay? 10 commandments, 10 fingers. 1, God comes first. No other gods before me. And then there's 2 fingers. And you can do this one of 2 ways. 2 fingers, 2 gods are too many, okay? It's one God. The one Lord God is who you... Or you can do this, you don't bow down to other gods. You don't worship idols, okay? So that's the other one. So either way works. 2 gods too many, or, don't bow down to other gods. Number 3, hold up your hand. Number 3 looks like a W. It's for watch your words, okay? A W is over your hand, over your mouth. Watch your words. God's name is holy, and we should never, use it in vain, never in a bad or silly way. And so the third is, do not take the Lord's name in vain. Number 3. Number 4, okay? Now, what is the thumb doing here? What's the thumb doing? The thumb is resting, okay? He's resting. So he's keeping the Sabbath day holy. So number 4, resting. Thumb's resting, number 4. Number 5, when we hold up that, it looks like we are taking a vow or a pledge. And so number 5 is to honor your parents. Hold up our hand to honor our parents. Number 5. Number 6, okay? So you got one hand up and you got the other pointing. Looks like a gun's going to shoot him. So that is thou shalt not kill. Number 6, do not murder. Thou shalt not kill, however you want it. Number 7, kind of have to think about this in a little bit. Okay, so you hold out your hand flat, that's 5 fingers, and then you got 2, and you kind of put them on there. Kind of looks like a little bunny foo-foo too, but no, just think of that as 2 people, like a marriage ceremony. So here's the hand, the 2 people, they're getting married. When we get married, we make promises, and so the 7th, keeping the marriage covenant, do not commit adultery, that's number 7. Number 8, you got 4 fingers, you put them up over your eyes like this, looks like you're looking through gel bars. That is, do not steal. If you steal, probably going to go to jail. So that's number 8. Number 9, there's actually a couple of ways we can do that one too. You can do that like here are the 9 guys here, and this guy is telling lies about the other 9. The way that I actually like to remember it is this though. When you testify in court, you put your hand on the Bible. So you're putting 4 fingers down on the Bible like this, and you're holding your other hand up. And so the actual commandment is do not bear false witness. And so that's probably helps us get closer to what it was, number 9. And then number 10 is this. You got 10 fingers and you're trying to grab stuff. So gimme. And that's when we shouldn't covet any of our neighbor's stuff. We shouldn't covet. So, I know it's simple. I know it's a child's example. But those hand motions will help you remember that and help them recall. And so, we do things like that. And so the 10 Commandments, they're universally agreed to be one of the most important pieces of religious literature in history, period. But one thing you should know about them, this as a background, is that they're really never called the 10 Commandments in the Bible. The Hebrew expression, which occurs several times in the Old Testament, they're actually referred to as the Decalogue. The Decalogue. Deca is the Greek word meaning 10, and logos means words. So they're the 10 words. 10 words that God gave the Israelites at Mount Sinai. Of course, the terminology, the 10 Commandments, is how they are largely known now, and so that's okay too. It's how we'll probably refer to them most of the time that we're studying them, particularly as we get started back next Tuesday. I want to remind you that church is online tomorrow at 11. I know we had hoped to have an outdoor worship service tomorrow, but based on the latest information that we got, particularly some here locally, we just need to wait a little bit longer. And I know there's a lot of us disappointed, but I want to tell you this. I'm working on some special stuff for tomorrow's service today. It's Saturday. I'm usually almost done with the service, but I know we're a little bit disappointed, so I'm going to try to have some special stuff for us. And so we'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock, online worship. Until then, keep bringing the hope, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.